What's new, 802? I'm Becca Hammond, and you're listening to Vermont Talks. Vermont Talks may include graphic or explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. On this week's episode of Vermont Talks, we have Beneath Black Waves with Jesse and Nathan Munier. Beneath Black Waves is comprised of two siblings and a drum machine. They are beach goth, post-punk, surf gloom, and dark pop, and they are based out of Burlington, Vermont. Nathan, Jesse, welcome on the show. We are here today. It is what is today? The 23rd of July. It's Saturday, South Burlington. Chilling out in my apartment, having a grand old time. So, tell me about your band.
Sure, yeah. So we play in a two-piece band called Beneath Black Waves, and we actually started the band in pandemic times. Jesse, you want to tell this story? You had a really good answer for this one last time we were talking about this.
So at the time I was working like a super stressful job, and Nate sent me an invite to have some beers on, was it Oakledge?
Yeah, it was one of those. We've been doing a lot of pandemic social distance beach beers for the past couple of years. Have been one of the ways when it's nice summertime to get together with people and in a more safe open air situation.
Yeah. So we were hanging out trying to relax, despite the state of the world and the craziness, and trying to figure out how to just like mentally process that all, and having some adult beverages. And I think we'd been listening specifically to the album Sunbather from Deaf Heaven. This like intense, like
grind black metal.
Yeah, like black metal shoegaze. Very loud, not your typical beach music.
Yeah.
And that led to several.
This is a mood.
Several drinks later, we were like, "What if we start a beach goth band?" Not really knowing specifically what beach goth is, and I've heard the term kind of thrown about, and we're just like, what if we just like shoot for that aesthetic, not really knowing what it is.
So let's just decide on what that is as we go, because we like surfy kind of music, a lot like post-punk stuff, a lot of like classic goth music and metal and what things. So we're just like, let's make a beachy sounding band that's like real dark and moody and depressed sounding, but also like maybe really poppy too. So we play music that sort of encompasses those different elements to it. But yeah, we started off basically as a pandemic band and practiced for a couple of years, or a year and a half or so, and then been playing shows the last year or two. So
yeah, and it's just the two of us and a drum machine.
Oh yeah, that's right. The two siblings and drum machine.
the robotic third member,
and also now an array of keyboards and other pedals too. We're weaving into the family. But yeah, so it's just us, and we've been playing shows and getting a feel for what that is like. And it's been a lot of fun.
I really love the term beach goth. I was going to ask about it. Beach goth, surf gloom. That was the other one I think is amazing. Surf gloom. Your sound, is it very completely varied? Do you have some extremely heavy stuff? Because I was listening to your set with Robot Dog. It's like, oh my God, this is so pretty. But then you listed beach goth. I'm like, I feel the prettiness. I feel your aesthetic. I see the goth. I see you, how goth you are. But I was like, wow, this is some really pretty. It felt more like the Beach Boys almost, like that pretty sort of. At least some of the songs I listened to, sure. I didn't get deep enough, clearly, because I'm missing the heavy gloom of the sound you're going for.
Yeah, there's a song on that we just released. I think it was a 5-song EP that we recorded live with Robot Dog. And yeah, there's a couple songs that are like, we have a range of sounds we explore. We have one song on there called Void that's very Pixies-ish, and that it's like kind of loud, quiet, loud, but like at the end it gets almost like doom sludge metal, like heavy loudness.
Okay, yeah.
We also like kind of, we characterize our music almost like the core of our music is like we are a pop band. We're like a dark pop band. We play loud pop music with really dark lyrics, and it tends to be on the heavier side. Our sound is a mix of like surf, post-punk, like some kind of like alt indie rock kind of vibes. Sometimes it's a variety of sounds, but definitely rooted heavily in like a gothic vibe in terms of the lyrical content and like the kind of the image we're putting together as like what we're presenting for when we play shows. But yeah, our sound is really kind of dynamic, and then it kind of draws from a lot of different influences.
I was just going to ask about the influences, because you said you were listening to that one particular album. at the beach, which is very fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what other bands?
Obviously very much like a Joy Division, Smiths kind of influence.
Yep.
To some extent, I used to listen to like the Bauhaus and like Sisters of Mercy. Actually, that's where my vocal style kind of draws from, because I have a deeper voice. I've sung in different bands before, but I've never really embraced just singing like in a low, deep kind of croony voice. And like singers like Peter Murphy from the Bauhaus and like Sisters of Mercy and other bands of that sort of like ilk. Really, I like that vocal style and that sonic aesthetic, but I'm trying to think of this band called Oh Children that is really like kind of a similar vibe in terms of like that darker, heavier vocal style, like lower end. But we also listen to like a lot of different kind of music, a lot of shoegaze, like black. I grew up also listening to a lot of like black metal and like Norwegian death metal and like just kind of heavy stuff too. But Jesse, you want to talk about some of your influences too?
I think there's definitely some overlap. I think Nate leans a little bit harder into the more like straight up like 80s 90s more like traditional goth stuff than I do. Definitely a big fan of the Smiths, and definitely that I'm drawing a little bit more of that influence into like my bass playing. Also, I believe is it Peter Hook of Joy Division New Order, the bass player?
I think so. I don't know.
A lot of our early stuff was kind of like drawing from that, like playing higher up on the fretboard, like kind of more like almost playing like lead lines on bass, or playing more kind of like busy chimey bass parts. But yeah, a lot of really into like 90s, 2000s indie rock. I think one of the things that we found too in trying to like, even though our core sound, and especially like Nick's vocal stylings, are more rooted in goth music, we kind of think that a lot of the best goth bands, while they're really good, they can be kind of a little bit like one note sometimes. Like they fall into the same kind of sonic territory over and over again. And the best ones, or the like post-punk or goth adjacent bands, are ones that incorporate like different funky musical elements in a way that you wouldn't expect. Like listening to, I think Barbarism Begins at Home by the Smiths. It's like, oh, this just is straight up like funky, like disco bass line.
We've been pulling in a lot of funk in the stuff we're working on now is a little more synth heavy. So we're trying to draw some different influences in what we're doing. So you've been putting a lot of like straight up funk bass lines to that kind of synth keyboard heavy stuff we've been working on, which has been really interesting, because I'm still working to see like how that's going to fit into our sound when we put it all together, because it still sounds like us, but it's like a very different energy than like our first batch of like a dozen or so songs.
Yeah.
But we see a lot of different. I actually like we're siblings, and we're 10 years apart. I'm the elder sibling, and I think I had a big influence to some extent, forcing you to listen to a bunch of weird stuff when you were like a kid.
I remember like hanging out in your bedroom growing up, like listening to like Sonic Youth and like the Pixies, and like also a lot of like funky grindcore, but also like Fugazi. Oh yeah, I draw a lot from this personally. Just like hanging out and playing video games and being exposed to all this music. And I remember like, it's kind of embarrassing. One of the first albums I ever got was like Limp Bizkit's Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water. And I think I even got like the censored version of the album, which is like doubly embarrassing. But you're like, ooh, that's maybe not the best. Here, if you like this kind of like general sonic framework, check out Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, that was actually the first CD I bought. Was the first Rage Against the Machine album was like when back in like the 90s, like the first compact disc I owned was like, oh, Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, like I remember listening, like having fond memories of like being like a 11, 12, 13-year-old listening to Evil Empire and like talking about like cops burning crosses and shit, like not fully conceptualizing what all that meant at the time, but I'm like, oh, like, yeah, in retrospect, that kind of informed a little bit about adult me.
We have a really broad range of like influences though. Like I like a lot of even more modern kind of goth centric stuff. But as Jesse was saying, like after you listen to a lot of it, you start to notice that a lot of bands start to sound very samey, and they try to draw influence from other bands that also sound samey, and it just becomes this repetitive cycle of like a lot of bands that kind of are doing the same aesthetic over and over again. And you see that in any kind of genre too. But like I tend to notice those things that are repetitive in like the things I'm doing and try to pinpoint those. Like let's change that and do something different. So we've been drawing a lot of influence from even like post-punk goth stuff. That's like the old school stuff plus the newer bands that are out, which I really listen to a lot of to enjoy. But I found that a lot of it gets cyclical and sort of, I don't know, it's like a dog chasing its own tail kind of energy. So we've been trying to intentionally break out of that a little bit with what we've been doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, that's kind of like the Beatles, right? They were trying to break their own sound. We sound like ourselves. We're going to break our own sound. Because I think, speaking to the 90s, 2000s, so many of these subsets of rock during those era, I should say. Everyone was so divided, and I think that's something that's kind of dying away in the music industry in and of itself, just coming from the bottom up. Who cares what you define yourself as if you're a musician and you're talented? And I think that I as a kid, the emo early, there was attitude, there was such attitude because I listened to heavy metal, and like, if you weren't heavy enough, I had attitude about it. It was like, it wasn't the same, it wasn't my music because I liked specifically this type of metal, and like, I might respect it, but it wasn't the same, And everyone had these funny lines that now I feel like have kind of blurred and are mostly going away in some ways. Like, who cares if you play some, because I'm trying to think of the right band name. Between the Buried Me is one of these metal bands that beautiful lines in it, and they sing and they do such beautiful things, and it's not like, I'll play some of their songs and like, this is not black metal, it's not whatever you want to call it. It has elements of so many other genres that make it sonically interesting.
Yeah.
Like, they keep you interested by changing things up, like blur the lines, make something that just is pleasing to ear, and stop trying to follow the like specific of like, oh, this certain genre has this certain thing going on. And like, you couldn't be, if you're a grunge player and that was your thing, was grunge, like, you kind of like played yourself out of a career in some ways.
We run into that a lot with like trying to write songs that sound different from one another. Or it's like that intentional, like trying to not just do the same type of thing over and over again.
Right. Yeah, no, it's really interesting because it, like you wrote, that you're evolving your sound all the time. You're talking about so many different influences, and to even be aware of it, most bands aren't so much aware of, oh, I said this song sounds like this other song that we wrote, because it's their own music, and who, like, I've got to sound like myself, right? But if you're actually striving to continue to evolve and change, you're just going to be making interesting music no matter what, right? Like, that's a really cool mentality to have. Do you want to talk any more about your process?
Yeah, I would want to, on that point we were saying before, like, I do tend to get very bored if like we're just writing the same kind of song. And I think Jesse's in that same wheelhouse a little bit, because like we're always like, you're just like, oh, I've been playing 16 notes too long for these different songs. Like, now I need to play funk bass line. So like we'll go through waves of creative being really into like a specific vibe and approach, and then being like, we've been doing a little too much of this. Let's break it up with something else. But
right, one of the things to go on a brief aside, before the pandemic, we had started a game design company, a board game design company, and I think going back like years since like we were kids essentially, or I was a kid and Nate was a teen. We've been doing some kind of creative process together. We've been making just like 4-track recordings or like, and it's interesting to seeing now that, Nate actually works in board game design as a career. And we've kind of temporarily shelved our game design company to kind of in favor of being able to work on the music a little bit more. But it's interesting seeing some of the kind of design process that we have incorporated from like the iterative, super rapid fire prototyping kind of find its way into our music making as well. And like the idea of like, hey, let's put some creative constraints on this to like, let's set some rules for how we make this song as almost like design challenges.
Yeah. We were just talking about this, like just this the other night. Yeah. Just during band practice for it. We're just like, okay, next practice, let's just like pick a few parameters and try to write a song within those constraints to see how it comes out, rather than just kind of being like, we don't know where to go, because we sometimes hit the wall creatively.
One of the cool pieces of gear that we've been incorporating into our songwriting process, especially as we've kind of made the decision to double down on some of the like the more electronic, dancier end of the spectrum.
Dance, like poppy synth waves type energy. We're trying to bring some of that into our sound a little bit more.
Yeah, so we have and maybe you can talk about this a little bit. We have
the Deluge.
The Deluge.
Yeah, the synth drum. We have to like shout out to Matt from Night Protocol, who, when I was like, what setup do you folks use? And he was going on about their gear, and he's like, I was like, what if I wanted to get like everything in one box situation? He was like, get this for what you're describing. So I did, and it's been really a good tool for like rapid tracking ideas and throwing in like synth, because we want to have a sound that incorporates bass and guitar, which is what we use, but also like having over layers of synthesizer stuff on top of that, and I also I have like a Korg keyboard I've been playing with too. But we're trying to like put all those together into one soup.
Yeah, the Deluge in particular is awesome because it's like in 30 seconds, Nate can just like hammer out a rough drum beat and put like maybe a synth arpeggio, and I'm like, ooh, I can work off that. I create a bass line. Or we're just trying to like do some of those like rapid fire, like can we write the bones of a song or like a working idea or like a chorus or a verse in like less than 5 minutes and then turn it into something, just even as like a writing exercise.
Yeah, because it's hard to write songs when you don't have a live drummer. Like if you're playing the kind of music we do where it's very rhythmic, there's a lot of counter rhythm, counter melodies, our stuff, we've been trying to inject more like air into the songs to let things breathe a little bit more. But we started off writing a lot of 16th notes, a lot of very busy parts where there's always something going on. I'm singing a lot. I'm actually not really, I mean, I guess technically I'm a guitar player now and a singer, but like I've been a drummer most of my life. So I write songs. We were also running into this wall last time we were working on stuff. It's like I write songs in terms of structure because I'm thinking of it from like a drummer standpoint, where it's cool. Like here's a chorus and a verse and intro, and like Jesse was saying, like that's not how your brain works the same way. So we've been trying to kind of play with that, but to not get too off the rails, the having the ability to like put down some drum beats quickly without having to like fiddle through menus. Like that's why the Deluge is great, because you just literally there's like a little grid and you just punch out like kick, snare, drag it, and you've got you get like a little beat going.
Instant dance beat, yeah.
But then we can kind of just like jam on that. And before we had those tools, we were just having a lot of practice where it was just guitar and bass, and we would write the songs without any percussion or anything. And then I would go back and like we'd record that idea, and I go back and like sit down and meticulously program we have it's like a Boss DR880, which is a great drum machine they don't sell anymore. But I would go through and program the drums through that and all like the changes and stuff. And then we bring it back and fine tune it. But for me as a drummer, like a lot of the energy I get from a song or like a vibe comes from like percussion. So we've been writing a lot of our songs without any percussion to begin with, but having that tool to kind of layer a bit of a drum groove, figure out like, what does that feel like? Oh, that gives me an idea to like take this kind of rhythmic approach on guitar. And our music is sort of weird though, because like I'm a drummer playing guitar, and like I haven't sung in a band as like a front person really for like, and since I was like in like high school or college maybe. Even like my one band I played the most in, what used to be a Ninja Death Squad was a band I used to play in, which is just a drummer and guitar, and that was me playing drums and screaming and my friend Andy playing guitar. But like it's been a while since I've been like singing full time in a band as like the main singer. So it's been interesting to explore like what does that look like. And now lately I've just been like for a lot of our songs I noticed that I've been kind of doubling down and singing along to the lead lanes, because I don't play a lot of chords. I play a lot of leads when I play guitar, which is weird because it's like I have no rhythm guitar, but it's just bass and guitar. So I'm singing along to the leads and then also like trying to counter against that. But then I realized I've been doing that so much that, again, it's an example of like I realize I'm doing a thing. Now I can't do it for the next 3 songs. I'm not going to try to sing along to leads. Let me do something different and try to like write around that crutch I've been using. So
also to interject, if it's not obvious at this point, we kind of mentioned our weird brains. Oh, yeah. We're some ADHD neurodivergence going on here. We
both come from we're both being siblings. We both have the same like flavor of like unique mental challenges.
Yeah,
which it becomes a creative, like we work with that, and it's actually pretty helpful for our process. But we also are very intense when we get into like creative mode too. We're very like intense, and we think and move and talk and process things very quickly, but we can also burn each other out too. It's like pointing 2 intense laser beams at each other and they go
How quickly can you guys write a song though? Like how long did it take to write the EP, the 5-track EP?
Well, we started off just kind of being open to seeing like what does beach goth post punk like loud sad pop music sound like in our context. So we took a while to kind of just write a bunch of songs and like throw stuff at the wall, and so, like maybe half of those first batch we were like maybe 20 songs and like got rid of most of them.
Yeah, I think the first practice too, you came with some like mostly finished songs,
and that didn't work at all.
We were crammed into my like
your tiny house,
7 by 18 foot tiny house with just like amps around us. We like couldn't move,
rattling the thing.
Like you had to like climb over all of our gear to get out and like use the bathroom.
That was fun though, because that was like the first one. I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely could be a band, even if we don't really know what we're doing yet. Like, because I wrote 3 songs because I was doing a lot of solo stuff with drum machine and guitar. At that point, I was kind of wanting to transition away from doing that because it's more fun to be in a band with somebody than just being a solo performer sometimes. So being able to experiment with that a little bit, I came into practice with like, well, we should have some songs to play. So I wrote some songs, and none of them stuck. Like we kind of got a flavor for the sound, but we quickly realized like we write better when we or like collaborate in real time versus like coming in with finished stuff. So all of our music has been highly collaborative in terms of like how we write the parts, and like Jesse's style of bass playing is very specific, and like sometimes it's frustrating, and I'm not to giving you shit, but like,
Oh, no.
In a loving way, because I'm the older sibling, I'm used to we give each other crap all the time, but like he doesn't play bass like a normal bass player, because like if I'm like, oh, I've got this guitar part, just play these like 5 notes and keep it real chill, and he's like, nope, like
Yeah.
he's like, that's too boring for me. I need to like, because you've been playing lead guitar most of your musical.
Yeah, I actually like I'd barely played any bass before starting in this project, and I feel like the running, I guess I don't know if it's a joke. The running comment is like, Nate's not a guitarist and I'm not a bass player. But I don't know if we can say that now. I think we kind of settled in a little bit more.
Yeah. But yeah, like you don't play bass like a normal bass player would per se, but I think that actually is, even though it can be hard from a songwriting standpoint, sometimes I'm just like, want you to play in the pocket. And you've been doing more of that lately when we've been picking those moments, and it actually makes the music stronger because we don't play in the pocket most of the time. And when we both choose to like get real chill or be double down on something, it really makes an impact in the sound.
Yeah.
But also I like that because it's like pushing, we're writing music I wouldn't normally write, because are both pushing each other in these interesting directions and counter melodies and counterbalances and rhythmic stuff. And like, it takes a long time sometimes to, when it sticks really well. And sometimes we will like throw stuff against the wall over and over again until it like starts to take a shape that we want it to. But so to get your question is like, sometimes we write songs very quickly, but the EP, we chose that group of songs out of like a bigger group we had written. So we wrote we spent the whole first year of being in a band in pandemic, just being like, well, we're not going to play shows anytime soon. Let's just write a bunch of music. So that's what we did. We wrote like 15, 16 songs. I think got to about 20, and then we got rid of a bunch of them. I think we've got about almost 20 songs now again that we'll throw some out every once in a while and put new ones in, but we've got a good batch of music now that we're kind of focused on, and we're trying to push and write newer stuff in a different vibe. But
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, even if you don't call them finished songs, if you can just put out huge amounts of content and pick what you like, that's kind of gold, right? Because it's what you like the most out of everything you've created.
Sure, we've been cherry picking stuff a lot, because like we'll put time in something and realize like, this isn't quite right, so we'll put it on the shelf, and so we'll put songs away for a while and then bring them back, and then like find the element that to shift them. Right. Like our song Hymn of Transformation was an example where it was a cool concept, and it's not that much different now than we used to play it, but we made some adjustments and it became a tighter, more fun to play song, which has been one of my favorite songs to play lately when we've been doing live shows.
We've got another one in the works too that's kind of in a similar vein. It's called Masks. It was one of the first songs that Nate was playing live, synth on the Korg mini log. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I like this song, but I'm like, I always feel like I could, I'm not quite at the level of bass playing I want to be to write the kind of part I want to write for it. And now I feel like I'm getting kind of more into that, having spent a little bit more time working on things. And and I think a lot of the focus now is like kind of maybe like reapproaching some of those older tracks that have potential or have good ideas in them, and seeing like, can we rewrite this? Can we salvage it? Or should we just kind of like throw it in the scrap pile and just bang out some more stuff?
Yeah. Are you constantly recording so that you can get back and remember these little tidbits?
Yeah, having a phone. Like we usually will record if we get like ideas on our phones. We'll play an idea during practice, flesh it out, get a version of it, and I'll record it and just set it aside, and I'll email you the files. But then like once it becomes like we can play it from start to finish. And also we haven't talked about this yet though. Like lyrically, vocal melody is important to our sound. So when we're playing a song, I don't typically have words to go to the songs. So there's a whole lot of like meow 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 meow. Like I'll like meow into the mic. I'll like just go like blah blah blah. I say like gibberish. It's like Simlish kind of like it. And it took me a long time to get comfortable doing that, because it's like very weird to be like just speaking nonsense, but like focusing on the singing and melody to kind of hammer out ideas like, how do I want to sing this? That's actually been a really big part of our creative process, is just like putting a mic on, playing through the music that we kind of figured out, and then like doing reps of that, and just me like pushing my voice and singing and trying to like do better, like to come up with melodies that are interesting to me. And then I go back and kind of fine tune them. But like getting that whole rough draft, like scratch concept for a song is really important. And then we'll go and take that, and I'll go back and like program drums, and we'll kind of talk about the parts and rearrange them. And it's usually I don't know. It feels like it's taken longer for us to write the songs that we've been working on, but they're a little more complicated. There's a lot more different, sonic ideas we're trying to explore. So it's been like, the song that's like Chris Isaac inspired energy, but it's definitely a different sounding kind of thing. That was the one that was on the video I think we posted. What's the song called? I can't remember now off the top of my head. Other Side, yeah. It's very slow, moody, quiet, and there's like a lot of like shimmery kind of guitar work that just kind of ethereal. And there's just a lot of like...
Yes, that's the one I listened to. I was like, this doesn't sound like goth.
It's a very different vibe, but like even getting to the point where we could play that through and like realize, oh, this is cool. Like it's not quite what we normally do, but it works in our sound.
Yeah,
but it took a while to like get the reps going, and like feeling that out. It's easy to play like the more punkier stuff. We just slam it out and like, and it's fun to get the energy of it. But something more delicate like that, where there's a lot of like nuance to how I strum a chord and how the vocals go.
I think that was like the first time I'd experimented a little bit more with like non-straight up like post punk, kind of more like a jazzier, slinkier style of bass playing. I think that's something too. Like you mentioned Chris Isaac as inspiration in that one. A lot of the times when we're shooting to like create like a certain vibe in a song, we might pull from something like the song Void was, I think you'd also mentioned, was inspired by kind of the general dynamic of the Pixies. And I remember before we wrote that one, I think it was David Bowie giving an interview about why the Pixies were such an awesome band, and specifically talking about that like shift in like loud, quiet, loud dynamic, and bringing that idea into practice and being like, ooh, what if we try to like emulate and do our own version of that? And a lot of the songs that we write will like pull from either a particular like musical influence, and maybe it's like we shoot for that, we have a near miss, and then but the thing that we've created is still like, oh, okay, there's something there, and then it just becomes its own thing. So like even though the Other Side doesn't necessarily sound like Chris Isaac's Wicked Game, it like loosely pulls from some of the same
sexy energy.
Yeah.
That's like I was thinking when I was trying to like, ooh, let's be like delicate and like haunting sounding, and the lyrical stuff was actually really interesting, that one, because it gets our songs are pretty weird lyrically. So
yeah, I'll let Nate elaborate on that. They want to.
Yeah, feel free, please go on.
So like one of the things I think is most interesting about being able to be like a singer in a band, like it's really satisfying for me to play guitar and program all the drum stuff and be on stage doing that, but also like thinking about like what do we want to present as like what are we about? Because like some bands they just write like songs about like whatever, and it's like we kind of going into this project, I wanted to have like a very specific like headspace about like the lyrical content. So our first batch of songs, we set the parameter of like let's write songs about death.
Then we're like, how do we add almost thinking in the like the funky, like let's make this a design challenge recently coming from like board game design. And so we're like, what if we make this this EP about death, but make it from like unconventional perspectives, like death maybe from the perspective of someone or something that has died, and then maybe like adding in a layer of like lyrical abstraction on top of that.
I tend to write in a lot of abstract. Like I'm not usually writing I don't think any of the songs are really about just like what you see is what you get about what the lyrics are. It's like it's all subtle references and like vague, like it's almost like I paint pictures in my brain of like what is the story and what's the scene and what's happening. Like we have one song that we don't think we play anymore, but it's like is one of those first batch of songs about death where it's like singing like what sounds like kind of a love song, but it's actually from the perspective like of a skull like just lying in a field, that like a dead body that's been rotting for years, and like the lyrics are meant to kind of sound like, oh, like you're longing for this lost lover or whatever, but it's actually about really, there's a twist later in the song where it's like the actual person that you're longing for is the person that killed you, and you are longing to in like reconnect with them in perhaps a more like nefarious way, but you're just a skull in the ground. So it's like, so the idea of like trying to subvert like typical patterns of narrative stuff in songs. We've got a song called
going back to that one. I just want to mention that one of my favorite lines from that one is my lips are gone, only bones are left to kiss.
Oh yeah.
That's a good line.
Oh yeah, because it was like I'm waiting for you.
Yeah,
counting the milk. Yeah, so yeah, so the lyric stuff is fun because like, so we've got a song called Dead Sons, and I don't know that we're gonna play that one that much more because it's repetitive. It's a fun one to play, but it was definitely like drawing from that initial like very gothy, trying to do a kind of very typical dancey, moody, kind of punky goth song. But the lyrics are about like kind of like this procession of people that are like marching in the night up to a spire, and like reaching this a point of ascension where they sort of like shed their skin and like metamorphose into the sky as like serpents writhing into like this void light. And like how do you write songs about, like, it's just like weird. So it's just like a weird concept where I'm trying to like think of things. I was thinking of like culty stuff, and I'm very inspired by like the occult and weird specific things. Like we have a song called oh gosh, what's the post-punk one? I'm drawing a blank of all of our songs. It's like
Extinction Curse.
Yeah,
That's
Extinction
about,
Curse.
Like an apocalyptic, like world-ending event, and is it like stuck outside of a bunker? When you're
that was the
watching,
idea
like,
for the song. It doesn't say it in the lyrics really, but I was like thinking, like, what if everyone's like racing into this bunker, like to like try to escape this, like I like doomsday, like not doomsday porn, but like the idea of like, I get really into the idea of like how is humanity going to become extinct and like decay and things that are world-ending events. I like that kind of stuff. Black holes, weird things are like nothingness and sort of like nihilistic energy. But drawing from that, like this one, that song was particularly just about like, oh, we're all kind of like in this procession towards, not procession, but like we're going to this bunker and like watching this like burning ball of death. It basically incinerate all of us together in this like common, we're all dying together energy. That song is also like an experiment. Like, how can we tell a story with like two sentence verses and then like a repeated phrase? So like very minimalist lyrics that we're trying to tell a story. That's a fun one to play just because it's just so like straight up punk, like, but has that like that surfy guitar rail thing and the breakdown. So yeah, but like our stuff is really weird. And I try to write lyrics. Some of it is personal. Like we have a song that's kind of about and we play Chrysalis. Actually, we play that one a lot. It's not really about my own journey so much, but it feels like it's adjacent to my own journey. It's talking about like, actually some of the songs are about my own journey in terms of like, discovering in the past year or so that I'm non-binary and like sort of exploring that side of like discovering myself. So I do think that subconsciously a lot of our lyrics are about transformation in a sense. So some of it's like creepy transformation. Like we've got a song that we just started playing again, and it's about like, two lovers sort of going beyond this, like beyond the known world and transforming and like combining and melding into something like abhorrent and like destructive, but then like having like finding some beauty in that sort of like abomination. We've got a song that I keep talking about like people dying and then summoning like the smoke from their burning corpses awakens like a giant worm queen that writhes across the city, making a throne of skulls out of the people. Like
that one, appropriately named Skull Throne.
Skull Throne. I was like, I just want to write a song called Skull Throne. So let's go and write the song about that. It's a very punky one, but yeah,
amazing.
We've been trying to like write songs that are both interesting and abstract and dark and weird. And it's like we kind of have this framework of like we want to be like a loud pop band. That's obviously the sort of goth band, but like, even if we're playing stuff that's not as abstract gothy sounding, it's like we throw in, it's like, here's pop music and we're singing in like maybe a croony kind of pretty sound, but it's about stuff that's real dark and weird and like not necessarily obvious unless you sit down and read lyrics and go, something strange is going on in this lyric lines.
I think too, it's fun for me, especially as we've been playing more club gigs, going from like a lot of DIY venues where we're just like being loud and rowdy to more club gigs where it's like, oh, people in the crowd can actually like
kind of hear what we're saying a little
hear
bit.
the lyrics. They're like, oh,
they're like, yeah, that's weird.
But yeah, that's I really have been enjoying like I think we've always been like pretty solid musicians, and I think we're like starting to hit a little bit more of a stride in terms of songwriting. But I think one of the things that because we're both like weird, anxious humans that get in our head a little bit too much, like we're still working on kind of like our stage presence and our live performance a little bit. And I think it's one of the things that we've been kind of working towards too is eventually trying to figure out a way to like have me do like some more background vocals and more.
I'd love to have you sing because you've had a good singing voice, and then to be cool because like again with our stage presence, like part of the reason we don't move around a lot on stage is we're both like very occupied in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like when I play drums, like I'm playing a show at High Ground with my other band Shore Rates tonight, and like I can walk in there and just like play drums and just be in the zone and be like looking in the crowd and not and like doing things and not paying attention, just like do it automatically. But like standing up, doing pedal dances, running the drum machine, playing lead lines. I'm not a lead guitar player, but I'm playing like lead melodies and singing and trying not to lose my balance because often I'll play in like couple inch heels lately. That's the other aspect of like being a front person. It's like I get to like dress up and feel pretty on stage, which is nice. But like there's a lot going on there, so it's hard for me to get away from that and move around and like be more animated. And for you, like you're playing really busy bass lines, so you kind of also you know anxiety of like live performance. Like you'll sit there and just like be in the zone, like hitting all those notes, craziness, and just like not move. So we also like kind of both are hyper aware of that. We're not moving. What should we doing? And
we were having a conversation like immediately following a show. It was like a Monkey House show where we're like talking about like being like super self-conscious, like am I getting low enough in my power stance, am I like moving around enough, am I like looking at the crowd, and I'm thinking like I'm preemptively gonna mess this song up. I know in like 3 measures I'm gonna mess it up. I'm like no, I don't do it. Like so it's like there's all this or if something sounds strange, like we played the show Arts Right where the sound on stage was very different than what we're used to, but it sounded great in the crowd. But like we had to turn all of our stuff down, like getting used to being in a show, like a bigger club venue, we have to adjust your sonic input for the stage. But we were like, everything sounds real weird, but I think it's all right because people are telling us it sounds good. But we're like very anxious and be like, I don't know if we're like, and also getting sweaty and like it's hard to be a musician, I guess.
Yeah, being on stage is really scary. I used to play out, and honestly, my anxiety kills me now, and I just like can't do it anymore. So I appreciate what you guys are talking about. It's like, what do I do with my arms?
Right.
Are they out enough?
Yeah,
totally.
I totally get that. So we're already at 37 minutes, and I just want to touch base on a couple things before we end. Where are you guys both from? Are you from Vermont originally?
Yeah.
We both in Franklin County, and
Me too.
Fairfield, to be precise.
Awesome, cool. I just wanted to check where you actually had started from. And how long have you both been playing music? When did you start playing music?
I'm 42 this year, so I've been playing since I was like 10 or 11, I think. So about 30 years now, roughly.
I think about the same. I started by playing drums on some of your hand-me-down kits, and like I remember like being a kid and like lurking on the basement stairs and like poking my head down and like
you've been
like
playing
watching
music the same amount of time I've been playing, roughly. Yeah. But you're like you were much younger. You were like baby playing, like because I'm 10 years older than you, roughly. Yeah. So, but yeah, we've been playing for a long time. But
started playing guitar at like 13 and only switched over to bass like pretty recently.
Yeah. And I played drums mostly as my primary instrument all my life, but then been playing guitar off and on since then, but not in like a band typically. So this has been like the first in a while being in a band, playing guitar and being on stage, which is cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You have both been doing this for so long, and you clearly are super passionate about this.
Keeps us going. It's it's like there's not a lot of money to be made in playing music these days, and like we don't really care about making it or. We do want to do some small touring stuff, but like it'd be cool just to get out in front of more people, but we don't really do it for like much more than just because we enjoy it and it's something we really enjoy. Yeah. Get up on stage and playing. We enjoy the writing process and writing music. Like, totally. Hopefully people listen to our stuff and dig it, and like we've been getting really positive response so far, so that's been really encouraging to help us kind of get through the hard parts where like we get in ruts where we're just like, oh, what are we doing? Like, is this even good?
Yeah, in my early, like I'm going to be 32 this summer. And in my earlier 20s, I was like starting to like play in bands and like having some like minor degree of success. And then it's just like hit with a string of like rough shows that didn't really go according to plan and just like got in my head, really bad stage fright, really bad anxiety. So I spent some time away, like almost a decade from like.
You stopped playing music for a long time. And I've been trying to like trying to find out. And we connected too because there was some other stuff that happened in life where I moved away for like 10, 15 years.
We reconnected. I think I was visiting friends out. We were like going to hike in Zion, and I accidentally dialed you after Mom gave me your new phone number, and then we like reconnected after I've not talked for like years.
So this has been fun, like sibling bonding experience too.
Yeah, I'm super interested to hear about your game company, but we could have a whole other interview just about that. Because I have had another game design company in town. Concept Medley came on.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I know those folks. Yeah, like
they were super cool to talk. I love talking about the game, so we might have to have you guys come back and talk about the game design.
Awesome. Totally.
Because that would be very, very cool. So is there any other details you want to touch on? You want to talk about yourselves, about upcoming shows, about anything you want to share? I am going to plug the show notes later. I'll
Okay.
give out the show notes link. I forget what number I'm on right now. But all of your links for your Bandcamp, your Spotify, your Facebook page, your email, Instagram, anything else will be on the show notes. But is there any upcoming shows or anything you guys want to talk about?
We actually we just wrapped up a good string of shows, and I've got some work trip stuff coming up, and so we've been focusing this the next month or two on just writing more stuff.
Yeah.
We kind of spent a lot of the winter writing a bunch of stuff, and then we've been playing a lot this summer, so it's been really good to kind of battle test the songs, fine tune them. But also we're kind of wanting to push more. I've been pushing hard to get into more synthier stuff, and we finally got the gear now that we can actually kind of do more of what we want to do.
Yeah, especially too the Arts Riot gig that we opened up for Night Protocol, which was super fun. And they're awesome. If you haven't listened to Night Protocol, go check them out. They are a fantastic Burlington synthwave band. And just checking out their setup and their sound. I hadn't seen them before we'd played with them, and they're fantastic.
There's some other really cool bands that sound like Roost.world. They do. There's a couple bands that are doing live synthesizer heavy dance music. That's not just club dance music, but it's cool cool vibe to it. I want to get in more with that kind of scene a little bit, because we've played a lot of punk shows, but we've been trying to play more club gigs, but I like having I don't want to just be a band that plays in basements all the time. Even though I have grew up playing DIY shows and doing tours and stuff. I like playing this kind of shows, but I want to play, in bigger venues in front of more people, and have that's part of. It's not to make it. It's just I want to be able to experience playing in front of more people and having people enjoy what we're doing. And also part of that is I want to get people dancing and see if we can subvert, can we be weird and get people dancing to our stuff, which is,
Well, incorporate dancier stuff while still kind of maintaining some level of coherence in our sound, and having it sound kind of uniquely our take on, dancier. Yeah,
you've been writing a lot of funky bass lines, which is super dope, because it's this is adding a different element to our sound, but then also I'm how do we bring it back around? So we've been basically the next couple months we're focusing on writing. I really want to play some October shows. So if anybody hears this and they want us to hop on a bill, I think we're pretty free in October, and I want to get spooky. So
yeah, we've also been talking, I think, since the band's formation about let's do a Halloween set of maybe incorporating some Misfits covers
that's probably I don't know if that's gonna happen this year, but we've been already making a list of the songs we want to play, but yeah, basically the next this fall we're hopefully hope to play more shows, but right now we're just kind of focusing on writing and getting kind of dialing in our stuff. And now that we've got that sort of live EP, that's helpful. It gives people a little bit more to listen to kind of experience. So if people want to check out more of the range of our sonic output besides the first EP, that live recording has some good stuff on it. It's not perfect, but because it was live and I fudged some lyrics a little bit, but we're going to probably re-record all those songs eventually as part of a bigger album, but we're also writing a lot of new material. So that's kind of the focus right now. But yeah,
cool.
October.
Awesome. Well, congrats to both of you, and thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And
thanks.
Yeah. All right. These show notes for this week's episode will be at vermonttalks.com/31. Thanks so much for listening to the end of the show. Subscribe to Vermont Talks on your favorite podcasting platform. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all over the web. Contact Becca at vermonttalks.com if you'd like to be interviewed or if you know someone who should be. Thanks so much to Jason Baker for creating the show music. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are those of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Vermont Talks. Any content or statements provided by our guests are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. And that's what was new in the 802. Have a great day.